Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Sean. Storytime Part 2. So, in the last episode, I I touched on where my relationship with Eagle Academy for Young Men, my former high school, began to go to the left. In this episode, I'm talking about, how all that shit going to the left affected me trying to get my very first book implemented into the curriculum for the 11th and 12th graders at Eagle Academy for Young Men. And that first book is By Any Means. This is it right here. It's a proof copy right here. That's why it's looking a little, rough around the edges and shit. But I'm going to have the whole series remastered probably sometime later this year, next year. It takes money to do these things independently. But, so anyway, back in 2012, after I graduated and I started my first year at Monroe College up on Fordham Road, I went back to the school. I was selling copies of my book, By Any Means, as I showed you. And, so I go there, people, former classmates, kids that I knew from there, they was buying copies of the book. Staff members, former teachers, buying copies of the book. So I came up with the idea of, hey, let me try to get it implemented and everything. So I went ahead and proposed that to Jonathan Foy, who was the principal at the time. He said, okay, leave a copy of the book with me. I'll read it, and then I'll get back to you in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks pass. I come back to the school. I talk with him. I chop it up with him in a meeting. So I come to his office and everything, and he says it's a dub because he says we're not going to be able to implement this book in the curriculum. And I'm like, why? What's wrong? He was like, because he's like, well, it's the language, it's the sex, it's the violence. And mind you, I already knew that it had all of that because I'm an urban fiction writer, street lit writer. So that's why I suggested it for juniors and seniors, because let's be honest here, kids are exposed to a lot of shit, stuff that I can't even dream of being exposed to. At this time, World Star Hip Hop was around, and that shit was light years ahead of the wild shit I could write, But anyway, so he says, oh, it's too realistic. And that shit threw me off because I'm like, too realistic? Like, that's like you going to the doctor and they're telling you you're too healthy. Like, what the fuck does that mean? And I'm like, well, with all due respect, look where the school is located. It's located in the middle of East Tremont. And let's be honest, Eagle Academy for Young Men is not, a goody two-shoes high school. It never was. That shit is like a Rikers Island prep school. At least it was for me during my time there. That shit, like, I done seen people get robbed, jumped, stabbed, all types of shit. But yeah, he was basically saying, it's a dub. And then my 9th grade English teacher, she's going to be like, oh, well, you used my first name in the book. And I'm like, I don't even know your first name. I just know your last name. And I'm like, I wouldn't even do that to you. Why would I use your first name? I don't know your first name. And she was like, oh, that could get me in trouble. And I'm like, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble at all. I'm like, I didn't know this is your first name in the character in the book. And I'm like, the character's name is Devine. I'm like, I didn't know that was your first name. And I'm like, fam, shit is crazy. And I'm like, and then she's like, oh, my aunt's name is also Copeland. I'm like, now, this is where I'm really like calling cap. Is like, Copeland's was a restaurant that I used in the book, as a place where Jamal and Devine had met for lunch or dinner or whatever. I can't recall right now. But that was a restaurant in Harlem. Like, anybody and you go to Harlem right now, ask one of the older black folks that been there, anybody who lived there, about a restaurant named Copeland's, they'll tell you that shit was there. So her trying to say, yo, oh, that's my aunt's name and everything, you're using my aunt's name, I'm like, you killed all your credibility. Originally, you killed your credibility with the first shit, but you really killed your credibility with the Copeland shit. So that right there really was like a blow to me, because I'm like, damn, one of my favorite teachers is fucking saying I'm using their name in a fictional story and shit, and I'm like, fam, no. And then on top of that, my high school was like shitting on me and curving me. And I'm like, y'all supposed to be embracing this fucking talent that I have. Like, that's where I feel like we need to have, as a community, as a black and brown community, we need to have a broader conversation around the politics of education, public education to be exact, because it's too much political red tape. Like, you could have went ahead and imagine cultivating and supporting a talent like mine, or any other kid for that matter. Like, that's the problem with, I feel like, the public education system, is that it just indoctrinates us to believe the bullshit agenda that America wants us to believe, instead of really cultivating our gifts, our strengths, and our talents. And for the record, I'm not doing this for clout. I'm not doing this to slander nobody. I'm doing this, one, to clear my fucking name, because people have asked me about this shit for years and I never really addressed it publicly. Two, is because we need to have a broader conversation, like I said, around the politics of the education system, not just in New York City, but overall. But three, is because we have a chancellor, David Banks, who is chummy as fuck with Eric Adams, who is an ex-black cop for a mayor, right? Everybody, especially the ghetto snobs and 9-to-5 working class people, always cry about the violence going on out here, right? In the streets. What do you think leads to that? When you got a mayor that's cutting $215 million, I'm going to say that again for those of y'all that are hard of hearing, $215 million out of your kids' public education to go into more cops, to put in the subway that don't do shit but clothesline niggas that don't have 275, and harass churro ladies and harass black kids selling candy. That's where our tax money is going to. That's what it's going to. More incarceration, more police brutality, more, carceral state orientated things, right? And you got Banks here who, founded the Eagle Academy, was the principal of it at one point, who had a school that was all about respectability politics and black excellence and all this other black liberal shit. And quite frankly, respectability politics have never, ever, 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 ever kept black people safe, especially poor and working class black people in America. They never have and never will. And, I'm jumping around a bit, but, it just goes to show, like, they don't give a fuck when it comes to our kids' education. Like I said, they let a white woman that ran a magazine run the Board of Education at one point with no experience, and one of the reasons she got fired is because when people asked her about overcrowded classrooms, her response was birth control. Like these are, like, you wonder why poor black and brown kids act up in school or don't really take education seriously. Is because us as adults don't take the education and the responsibility and the power that it comes with either being educators or being in positions of power within the education system seriously enough. A lot of us don't. We just go ahead and people, you got some teachers, especially from my time at Eagle Academy, Mr. LeVar, shout out to him. Shout out to Miss McBride, Miss Alexander, Mr. Forte, and other teachers that were dope and other staff members that was dope too. You got people that are passionate about their work in the education field, but the problem is a lot of them are never put in positions of power in the education system. And they're always either fired or blackballed or shunned or lied on and pushed out. So yeah, but yeah, this ain't for clout. This is just purely for clarity. It's not for likes, it's not for retweets, it's not for shares. It's just to let's spark the conversation about, the politics of education, holding people accountable. More community control over our children's education. We definitely need that. And stop just putting in the trust of politicians and whoever they decide to handpick or cherry pick, I should say. But that's it, y'all. That's all I got to say in these two videos right here. That's all I wanted to talk about, really. Hope all is well with y'all. Don't stay safe. My newest book, Sins of Society, is out now on Amazon. It's in the ebook format, the paperback format. The audiobook is coming very soon once it gets approved. Hope to see y'all soon. Stay safe and stay blessed. Peace.